Welcome back, everyone. We have another show for you today. We're going to stay in the same topic. We're going to be sticking with keto and intermittent fasting and any related questions to that, and also health questions. If there's anything that I say that kind of borders on making claims, just realize this is just for educational purposes. It's not meant to diagnose you. Check with your doctor before implementing any of this stuff. Um, so finally, Steve is doing his fast. You're at day 2 now, right, Steve?
I certainly am, and I'm fading quick. I passed out twice since we started the show, but I'm breathing deeply. No, I feel great, actually. It's terrific. And as I was telling some of our great guests in the green room, it's really easy in a certain way because there is nothing on the menu. So it relieves me of the burden of choice. And, what are you going to have? Nothing. And those instructions I can understand. But I really feel quite good. And the scale, it's hilarious, have been plummeting. I don't know if that's just water weight, but it's been a fun deal.
That's fantastic. When someone gets into ketosis, it's I don't know why someone wouldn't do ketosis. Get into that because it allows you to finally tap into fat. Like if you're on a high carb diet, you're not going to actually be burning any of your stored fat. So you end up depending on this stored glucose up and down, up and down, up and down, and you're hungry all the time. It just doesn't make sense to me. So if you're new to this channel, you need to try this because it really does work. And when you burn fat, it's actually, you get to lose weight. And that's a nice benefit.
Yeah, it's a great
So,
deal. Well, I tell you what, why don't we kick it right off? We have got a great group. We've all been chatting offline and have developed some questions. And Lori from San Rafael, California. Lori, make sure you unmute yourself, and you are on with Dr. Berg.
Good morning, Dr. Berg. What a
good morning.
privilege.
Awesome.
So, thank you. I have been intermittent fasting almost for a year now and came upon you probably about 5 months ago and have done some extended fasts as well. So my question this morning has to do with, and I know you've answered it in part in some of your videos, but I want to try to pull it all together. And that has to do with the timing of taking the nutritional supplements, the nutritional yeast, the wheatgrass juice powder, ACV, other herb powders like turmeric and such, and all the vitamins during an intermittent fast where you're eating just one meal a day, but some of the instructions on the supplements say take 2 to 3 times a day. Or do you like double them, triple them during that one meal, or is it better to take them with oil, the fat soluble vitamins with oil, a second or third time? And then the same question applies for when you're doing an extended fast, let's say 5, 6, 7, 8 days. Do you
Yeah, good
continue?
question. Very good question.
Thank you.
A lot of the phytonutrients and the plant-based chemicals and herbs and things are fat soluble, so they would benefit by just take them with the meal. Even if you have to double up and they say take 3 times a day, just take them all right at that meal. But if you're on a 4-day fast or a 3-day fast, you're not gonna. I would prefer you not taking any type of fat to help them dissolve. You're still going to absorb the majority of them, maybe not 100%, but you're still going to absorb them. So I would take them without a meal or without fat. As far as the minerals like electrolytes, I always like taking those in the first part of the day because if you take them in the second half, you'll be up all night urinating. So that's not a good thing because it's high in potassium and it'll pull out a lot of the fluid. And of course, if you have any sleep problems, I found that if you take your vitamin D right before bed, it seems to help your sleep, believe it or not. So that's another little tip. But other than that, some of these vitamins, it's very insignificant as far as having to take them at a certain time or not. It's not going to really make a big difference. I would take them whenever it's convenient, anytime you remember them. I pretty much take a lot of my supplements right in the morning so I can get it out of the way. But I have found that there's several ones that I'm taking at night just that it improves the sleep. One is my trace minerals because it has that zinc And the zinc is really necessary. If you ever took that test, 23, is it 23andMe, where they measure the genetics, and apparently I have some defective gene that doesn't allow me to sleep as good as other people. But the remedy for that is zinc, and ever since I'm taking the zinc, it's boy, that really helps. So zinc is good, and then I'll take maybe some vitamin D before bed with my sleep aid. Of course, you don't want to take your sleep aid accidentally in the morning, um, like I have in the past, and you'll be tired all day. So yeah, I think it's an interesting question, but it's not going to make that big of a difference if you take a certain supplement at a certain time. But if you have the choice, take them with the meal.
Okay, and just to follow on, since you mentioned about the electrolytes, what about, I have a large water bottle container. I think it's maybe 32 ounces, and I fill it with ice water and the electrolyte powder, and I kind of sip on it at intervals during the day. Is that okay to do during an extended fast?
That is totally okay. In fact, it's very, very important that you get those electrolytes, especially to prevent keto fatigue. And then, but what you want to do is you want to probably add some extra salt to that, some sea salt, especially
I
if you're
take
doing
sea salt.
prolonged fasting, because you can even do it in a broth or whatever. But the thing is that that way you'll have all the electrolytes and you'll have more energy, significant more energy. So yeah, sometimes if I need something to kind of give me a little boost, I'll take more potassium, heavy on the potassium electrolytes, and I'll just be like fully awake, but not like a jittery energy, just like I have energy, because potassium feeds the cellular batteries. So you'll have just more battery to go longer, especially if you exercise. So if you're new to fasting, if you're listening to this and you're trying to fast without B vitamins, nutritional yeast, and electrolytes, you may run into a problem simply because we don't store a lot of trace minerals like zinc, for example. We don't store it very well, and some of the other vitamins we don't store. So you might end up with symptoms. But the way you can do it, you can avoid all the symptoms by making sure you have your electrolytes with trace minerals and then your B vitamins, and you should be fine.
Thank you.
Well, that's great.
Hey, you're
Thanks,
welcome.
Lori, for
Thanks, Lori.
kicking it off for us. And by the way, I will report with your vitamin D and so on. I took a handful of my supplements this morning on an empty stomach and really wasn't bothered by it at all. So I'm not saying that I'm going to be the experience everyone has, but it really didn't bother me. And I've been hydrating enough, and I do drink the electrolytes. So I guess we're all on a great path. And speaking of a great path, why don't we kick it off with a question, Dr. Berg? And here you go.
Sure. All right, good. So how much liver fat can you burn in 2 weeks on the ketogenic diet? Just want to see how many of you are watching my videos.
All right. Fantastic. Well, let's see. Let's go over to social media. Farhan from Facebook. I need a good K2 supplement. Any recommendations? I bet you do.
Well, I'm not biased, but I would recommend mine. It's in the D3, and the advantage of that is you have the D3 and the K2 together as a good ratio, and it also has in there B6. I put zinc and magnesium in a base of the MCT oil powder, so that way you get this really good absorption of this K2. But K2 is a dynamite nutrient to drive calcium, keep it out of the wrong places, so it keeps it out of the arteries, it keeps it out of the joints, but it's also good for, even tartar buildup on your teeth, which is interesting. And then also it's good for energy as well, especially when you exercise. I notice the days that I'll take K2 with the D3, I can just go a lot longer than if I don't.
That's fantastic. Also from Facebook, Sue wants to know, and this is a question a lot of people ask, how long do I have to be on keto before I become fat adaptive?
Fat adaptive is a situation where you're really, you're in ketosis, you no longer have hunger, you're burning fat very well. And, maybe in other videos I might have said it takes 3 days, but that's really just to start to burn ketones, right? But to get really adapted, it takes minimally 1 month to 3 months. Now, this is a state where you can go exercise and not feel dizzy or lightheaded. This is a state where you can consistently burn fat. And even if you go off keto, you can bounce back fairly rapidly compared to if you're just starting out. If you just start keto and you're not fully fat adapted, like let's say it's been a week and you try to work out, you may feel dizzy and you may feel hungry because you're just not adapted yet. So it does take 1 to 3 months.
That's fantastic. And good morning, YouTubers. And Miriam from YouTube wants to know if keto and IF will help cure everyone's ever-present acid reflux. She's got acid reflux.
Well, I love the word cure, but it's illegal to cure anyone in the state of Virginia. So so you can't cure anyone. But as far as keto and acid reflux, I mean, just think about what you're doing. You're eliminating stress on the digestive system because these carbs are very stressful. And if you also do intermittent fasting, now you're not stressing the system too, because think about, it takes a good amount of time for food to go through these pipes. So if you're cramming food down every 2 or 3 hours, or even every 4 or 5 hours, and you're just not allowing your system to digest, it backs up. So I suggest you just try it for yourself. Prove it to yourself. See if that works for you. I always recommend 2 apple cider vinegar and maybe betaine hydrochloride if you have acid reflux. But sometimes when you take the pills, you might need more than just 2 with the meal. You might need 5 or 6 initially to get the ball rolling, and then it starts to really work. So this next Thanksgiving, if you do have Thanksgiving and you want to enjoy the continuation of eating, of course, all keto, just have a bottle of the betaine hydrochloride on your table and just keep taking these pills as you're eating, and you'll be able to keep eating for hours, Steve.
Well, that's a talent I certainly have, but I put that on halt for the last few days. But anyway, what isn't on halt is the vigorous work that the audience is doing with questions. And your first question was, how much liver fat can you burn from just 2 weeks on the ketogenic diet? And our participants, 85% of them say 50% or more, 10% say less than 50%, and 5% say 10% or less. I hope those numbers made sense, Dr. Berg.
Well, it just tells me that 80% of you are watching my videos, because I just released that video. I think I released it yesterday or the day before. Yes, 50%. I mean, this is shocking that you can actually lose 50% of your fat on your liver in just 14 days. Well, what was fascinating is that you don't necessarily, there wasn't shown a lot of weight loss, body weight, but liver fat, that's significant to be able to drop that much weight, because, or that much fat off your liver, because you're basically then now improving liver function. You're getting less inflammation. You're going to be getting less risk for getting scar tissue, more bile. That means more digestion that can actually occur in your system. I mean, this is just unheard of to be able to do that. And how many people have a fatty liver? I mean, it's like a tremendous amount of people. So that is the diet you need to do. You would think going on a diet that has 75% of your calories being fat would add more fat to the liver. It doesn't. It actually, if your carbs are low, that fat will be used as energy, not as storage. If your carbs are high, that fat will then get stored and not used as energy. So that's a very important thing to know.
Very counterintuitive, but by golly, it works. And I'll tell you what, we always like to do a big shout out from all our viewers around the world. We've got a great representation in our green room. We're going to have Derek in a little bit coming from Scotland. And we're very sorry that Kanya from South Africa had a rotten cell site. So we couldn't get her on the air with us. But Kanya, if you're watching, I hope you'll send us a question through YouTube or Facebook, and/or find a different spot that you can set up, and let's see if we can't get you on the air next week. In the meantime, let's say good morning to our viewers from Canada, the UK, the Philippines, Switzerland, Nigeria, Iraq, Germany, South Africa, Lahore, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Algeria, Spain, Israel, Scotland, there you go, Derek, coming up, Spain, Israel, Malaysia, Australia, the Netherlands, goodness, and the list just goes on, and everybody, Cameroon, France, and all across these United States. So, and finally, once again, Kanya from South Africa. So, Kanya, keep trying. We'll get you on the air pretty soon. And let's see, why don't we kick off with another quiz question, Doc? Let her rip.
What is the underlying cause of slow metabolism in men and women? So, what causes that? What is the key thing that you need to know this? Hopefully all of you do know this, but there's something very specific that will cause you not to be able to lose weight, especially you might hit a certain set point and then you just can't get below it. Why is that? Very important.
Interesting question. All right, audience, let them have it. So anyway, speaking of people around the world, Derek and I chatted about the awful game that he and his fellows invented, golf. But there's some great Ryder Cup, I think, coming up this weekend, so that's going to be fun. And, of course, soccer, or football as they call it over yonder, is going on around the world. So he's busy watching TV, but he's taking time out of his busy schedule to unmute himself and come on with Dr. Berg. And hello, Derek, you're on with Dr. Berg.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Nice to speak to you.
Nice meeting you.
I initially started the intermittent fasting and keto for the benefits for the brain. My mother had Alzheimer's dementia. My father had vascular dementia. So further on from that, I found more and more benefits, obviously for the rest of the body. I work on a seismic vessel, and I struggle, because I'm out of the country 7 months a year, I struggle to maintain the keto side of things while I'm away. I was kind of looking for advice of things potentially I could take. I used to take like protein bars, but as of some of your videos I was reading, not really good because they're full of sugar and all that kind of thing. So the demands physically when I'm away are quite high, so I need something to keep my energy levels up. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, I was hospitalized in Spain. My colon got inflamed. They put me in hospital for a week. Then got sent home with a low residue diet, and I've been feeling terrible since. So it's kind of, you're going to say get off the low residue, get back onto the good stuff, and then hopefully give me some advice for what I can take away to help with the problem while I'm on board.
Yeah, I think if you travel a lot, I think the solution to traveling is for you to fast while you're traveling, because what are you going to find in the airport, right? You're just going to find more food that you want to avoid. I think, though, for what you're trying to do, you probably should travel with powdered MCT oil. And that will at least give your brain the ketones that you need for energy and to, because if you're not perfect on keto and the brain, and then you actually take MCT oil, either powder or liquid, your brain will suck up the ketones before the glucose. So at least it'll support your brain and you'll start feeling better as you probably are trying to keep strict keto even when you travel. So MCT oils are kind of something that you should probably get used to taking, especially from your family having problems with that. Another thing as a supplement that you need for brain health is DHA. That's a type of omega-3 fatty acid. You can do it in fish oil, cod liver oil. Start taking that. That'll make your brain very, very happy. What's fascinating about the brain, it's only 2% of all of your body tissue, yet it sucks up 1/3 of all of your calories. It's a calorie hog. So this is why if your calories aren't correct, you're going to feel it in your head. So especially if you're doing a lot of analyzing and thinking, you actually burn a lot more calories. So you wouldn't think of your brain as a muscle, but your brain hogs a lot of calories. So you want to feed your brain what it really runs on more efficiently, which is ketones. So fasting is going to be really good for that. And then the other thing with this hospitalization, I think as a jump start, what I would do if I were you is I would not just take a good probiotic, I would probably start doing some kefir, maybe even some good high quality organic Bulgarian yogurt, something to fortify your gut. Because I could imagine, they probably gave you antibiotics, so you need to kind of fortify that. And then maybe also do a good prebiotic, which is like sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, things like that. But, your microbes, they have their main course is something that you can't even digest. And that's this carbohydrate, a type of carbohydrate called fiber from salads. So if you could keep that in as well, that'll feed the microbes. And then you'll feel better too, because there is a connection between your gut and your head. And so both mood and cognitive function. So anyway, that's kind of a long answer, but that's what I would do.
So the probiotic you suggest, obviously that's going to be sugar-free, right?
Yeah, that's right. That is exactly right. And they have a lot of different ones out there you can get, and find something that has good reviews. And then just to fortify that, the spore probiotics are good because you can probably travel with them a lot better, and you don't have to refrigerate them. But yeah, so that's what I would do. And also, always start small. Don't take a lot at one time, because you could have some people react to them. So, but that's what I would do, especially if you just been in a hospital for a whole week. You can imagine your gut needs some help.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, the feeling of being bloated and things on the low fiber diet is horrible.
Yeah, so in that case, I think this probiotic or fermented foods, and like I said, are going to be good. But also probably apple cider vinegar, kombucha tea, and even wouldn't hurt betaine hydrochloride just to acidify your stomach, and work on that, because that way you'll get the pH correct. If you can't make the normal acids that you need in your gut, the lactic acid, boy, all sorts of unfriendly things start growing. Yeast, fungus, mold, candida, pathogens start coming out of the woodwork. So you have acid-forming bacteria for a reason. So you're going to have to assist with that somehow.
Okay. Good. Appreciate the answer. Thanks.
Sure.
All right. Have fun with the Ryder Cup there, Derek, and all the sports that you're absorbed with. And by the way, Terry, our producer, suggested that someone on YouTube said that I looked as though I'd lost weight. And I don't know who they were, but I just want to report that I love them. I just absolutely love them. What a great thing to acknowledge. And any other comments you have about my improving looks, please pass them along.
You're looking younger by the minute, Steve.
Isn't that something? Boy, that is just great. All right, let's see. How about we go back to our quizzes? And what is the underlying cause of a slow metabolism in men and women? And our astute audience, 90% responded with insulin resistance, 5% responded with a stress or adrenal fatigue, and 5% say high cortisol levels. Are we on to something, Doc?
We are onto something, and I think 90% of you are hit it right on just perfectly, because it's insulin resistance. That's what's behind a slow metabolism. So instead of trying to fix your metabolism, just fix the insulin resistance. I do have more than one video on that topic, but we're talking about carb intolerance. So the more insulin resistance you have, the less you're going to tolerate carbohydrates. Now, what does that mean? That means that if you go on the ketogenic diet, you may find that your ketone levels are not as high as other people because you have this insulin resistance, and you may have to cut down your carbs even more than your friend or your spouse. So you might want to keep your carbs below 10 grams a day. So, but the good news is that over time, things will improve. But yeah, this insulin resistance, sure a common problem. And the way you fix it is you stop consuming the things that create it, which is the chronic consumption of large amounts of carbohydrates and sugars and things like that. So that's all I have to say about that topic.
All right. Well, that was well said, certainly, Doctor. And then Anna Maria from YouTube, and this is, a common theme. Can I use collagen powder in my coffee in the morning, or will it break my fast? That's just, we're all kind of confused. What can we put on our mouth and still be considered good boys and girls?
I think you'd be better off using the MCT oil or powder in your coffee than the collagen. The collagen, you probably want to take it a little bit more or closer to a meal if you really want the benefits, because it's a protein, and that protein does increase insulin. So that would be my suggestion. There's people are taking collagen and protein before and after exercise, or they're taking it for their skin, but the timing of it, the benefit of fasting without adding protein is so huge that I think your skin, your nails, your hair are going to do a lot better if you don't do that. But you can take it with a meal.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. Stan from Facebook, he's done 18 hours of dry fasting for 2 or 3 days. Now, I'm not sure how you can do dry fasting 18 hours in 2 or 3 days. That math isn't helping out. But anyway, will this help me recover from my sickness? One that he doesn't mention. So is dry fasting no liquid, Doc?
Yeah, it's not even on you're not taking even a shower. You're not even letting water, touch your body or drink. So you're dry. So there's some interesting effects that can create. That's like that adds more stress to the body, and it creates it's called a hermetic effect, where your body's going to adapt and become stronger. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't recommend it, because it might be too much for the average person. You have to be pretty healthy to do that, because as you know, Steve, there's certain people that start this, and they're not fortified with enough electrolytes, and they literally can feel faint, they can pass out, and it's not worth it. So unfortunately, the food supply is so depleted nowadays that we just don't have the health reserve that we once had 20, 30 years ago. So we're walking on eggshells. So this is why we recommend supplements and drink water, and don't put your body under that much stress. But dry fasting can create some really cool effects.
Well, I tell you what, Angelic Angela, that's what she goes by, from Facebook, is under stress because she is on dialysis. She wants to know, can she do fasting while on dialysis?
That's a good question for your doctor. See if you can do it if you have any stage 4 or 5 kidney dialysis. You need to be supervised, because you can't really start taking certain supplements without knowing what you're doing, because if you have too much phosphorus, for example, or too much potassium, that can be problematic. So present it to your doctor, see what they say, and if they agree with it, then go for it. But I want to stay away from any of these questions that relate to chronic end-stage liver or kidney failure, because I really you need to be supervised for those conditions.
Absolutely. Here's one that is not asking for a recommendation, but just an answer. Janet from Facebook, can you have normal liver number enzymes and still have a fatty liver?
Absolutely. But one good indication for a fatty liver, or a prediction of a fatty liver, is ALT. If you have high ALT, that's a liver enzyme, that's a good predictor of a fatty liver. And the fatty liver, you might say, well, it's just a fatty liver. I mean, what's the problem with that? Well, you also have, anytime you have a fatty liver, what that really means is you have fatty other organs too. It's not specific just to your liver. So you're going to have fat in the muscle, you're going to have fat in the heart, the pancreas, and it's going to be all over the place. And then the function of those organs are going to be diminished. So stay tuned for a video on that topic as well.
All right. Well, let's get back to some questions, Doc. Here's our next one.
All right. We have normal ketones are between 1 and 3, right? Millimolars. So how can you raise your ketones to a higher level, to 4 or 5? Or maybe even higher, to maybe a 6 or a 7 or even an 8? Go ahead and give me the answer for that.
And is that preferable to be that high, Doc?
You know, I think yes, but there's a point where you get up to 10, right? Well, that you're not going to be able, if you're healthy, you're not going to get your ketones that high, unless you have a condition where you have what's called diabetic ketoacidosis, and that's a pathogenic disease that occurs because you forgot to take your insulin and you're type 1 diabetic. And so that's when you have what's called ketoacidosis. You know, you'd be shocked to find out how many doctors don't differentiate between nutritional ketosis, which is a normal healthy thing, versus diabetic ketoacidosis. So anytime you mention ketones and your doctor goes, "Oh my gosh, you better not do that. You're going to die of a coma." Just ask them this simple question. What is the difference between nutritional ketosis and diabetic ketoacidosis? And see if they can answer that. You're going to find that if they can't, they don't know what nutritional ketosis is. They don't know that you're staying within a normal level. You're not getting up above 10, okay? So this is why it's good sometimes to test your ketones, blood ketones, and measure them to see where you're at. I mean, that most people are between 1 and 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. And depending on how you guys answer this question, I will get into how to even get it higher. If you wanted to get your ketones higher and you're just burning more ketones, you're deeper in ketosis, so you're burning more fat. And by the way, the most that a healthy person with regular meals could lose as far as fat goes per week is 2 pounds. But if you're fasting, you can lose up to 5 pounds a week. So
very encouraging. Absolutely. And speaking of questions, we have the lovely Gabrielle from Cincinnati, who is a newbie sort of to intermittent fasting, or to the whole keto and intermittent fasting world, just come on with you. So she's very enthusiastic and has some brilliant questions for you, Doc. Welcome to the Dr. Berg Show.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be on the show. So I recently, back in July, I went on a 10-day water fast. I had no food, so no nutrients were going in me, okay? I've done that before. I had no problems. But after the fast, I started keto. Well, what I thought was keto. But like Steve said, I'm new to your program. I'm new to learning about healthy keto. And so intermittently, I had been doing dirty keto, where I wasn't, you're not supposed to eat a lot of carbs, so you're not supposed to have a lot of vegetables, fruits, anything like that was kind of off limits. So I went from a 10-day water fast to dirty keto. So needless to say, what Lori was talking about and what you were saying with, people running into vitamin deficiencies and such on keto is exactly what happened to me. So I started with these terrible palpitations. Okay, I've had them before, but it was because I was dehydrated or I had too much caffeine and dark chocolate that I eat. Otherwise, I'm a very normal, healthy person. I do high intensity interval training exercises up to 6 times a week. I mean, this has never happened. So I'm on dirty keto. My heart is palpitating. It won't stop. I go to the doctor. My lab work is normal. My thyroid is normal. My EKG is normal. I go to a cardiologist. The cardiologist runs some tests. My echocardiogram is normal. My 2-week heart monitor information came back almost normal. It said I had some PVC, periodically, but nothing that was worrisome. So in the meanwhile, none of my doctors are telling me to do anything. I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So thankfully, I had some wonderful, sweet friends and family members that started sending me information, and it was all about low potassium. so a friend would send me something one day, and the next day, my dad sent me one of your videos on low potassium. So I start like binge watching all of your videos. And so I'm pretty sure I have every problem that you talk about. I'm like, oh, maybe I have, maybe I'm too alkaline, or maybe I've got low potassium, maybe I didn't have enough sodium. My doctors were not explaining anything to me. So I didn't know what to do. I found your electrolyte powder. I ordered that. I've been drinking that 2 to 3 bottles a day for about 5 to 6 days. And thankfully, I feel almost completely back to normal. So I still will have some palpitations, almost feel like I'm in that fight or flight for no reason at all. I'm not even in a situation where I should be feeling like that. So I started trying to self-diagnose, is it anxiety? Am I low on this? I didn't know what to do. So thankfully, as of today, I feel so much better, and I haven't done any of the other things. I did get some nutritional yeast. I've been putting that. I've been eating spinach salads and trying to eat vegetables. And but sometimes I still feel the palpitations when I'm doing the electrolyte powder, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be having some sodium with that at the same time. I also don't know when, because all my lab work was normal. So when someone else had that question with the liver, liver enzymes or whatever, like how, if my labs are normal, how come I still had this electrolyte imbalance that my doctors couldn't even help explain?
Yeah, well, 98% of all your potassium is inside the cell, not on the blood. So we have a situation where a normal blood test won't pick up a really true potassium deficiency. You have to do what's called an intracellular potassium test, which will also measure magnesium too. Those two minerals are really behind arrhythmias. So I think just with time, you're going to be fine. I think with time, it's going to get better and better, because it takes a while for your body to really start to become normal again with these electrolytes. There is a test you can look online. It's called an intracellular magnesium test, but then it also measures potassium as well. If you really wanted to do that, it might not show abnormal. So anyway, I think you're on the right track, because the benefit of doing a healthy version of keto is that you don't just add the electrolytes and all the other, like the potassium, the magnesium, because you're not going to get that in dirty keto, but you're also adding the fiber, which then your microbes can really be happy, and that can make butyric acid, which is similar to a ketone. It helps your blood sugars, and it fortifies a whole series of other benefits. And then also the phytonutrients, the benefits, and then and trace minerals and things like that. But in the meantime, of course, you're doing the right thing with just quickly taking the electrolytes. There's another factor here that can cause palpitations that are not related to electrolytes, that are related to the ketogenic diet, because when people get on keto, or they eat more fat, and if they don't have enough bile and they're not used to it, that gallbladder congestion, because it's connected to the liver, and the liver is kind of close to the heart, can create a little pressure and a little sludge and actually cause arrhythmias. So in that case, you can experiment with like maybe some bile salts, things like that, or even like in some of my videos, you can start to do some gentle massage on the gallbladder area just to keep things flowing, because I have noticed that you get let's say you get a Holter monitor, everything's fine, but you still feel these palpitations. It could be more gallbladder related. And the good thing is you did the 2-week, I guess, Holter monitor, and nothing showed up. So that's really awesome. So now we just have to continue what you're doing for longer, and just until you get to a stable point. You're already improving, but it does take a while. But
Okay.
I'm glad that you're on the right track, because the dirty keto just doesn't, it gives you the benefit of keto, but not the benefit of the health part.
Yeah, definitely. I do have one more question if you have the time. I've been diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome years ago, so I tend to carry belly weight. I did take your quiz online. It said that I would probably fall more into an adrenal category instead of an ovary category. I'm not really sure what I should be doing, what kind of exercise is good for me. Like I said, I usually do 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day, 4 to 6 times a week. I mean, it's exhausting. And I feel like the minute if I stop my diet, it's like, boom, the weight is back on. And it's like I'm on the struggle bus for real. So if you have any words of wisdom that might help with polycystic ovarian syndrome, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah. What's behind polycystic ovarian syndrome is just basically too much insulin resistance, which is then making more androgens, which is making it harder to lose weight too. So you're on the right track to deal with this insulin resistance. And that's why you gain the weight. If you're not somewhat perfect, you gain the weight right back, or it's more difficult because of the underlying insulin resistance, which is causing this PCOS. So I think you are on the exact right track. I wouldn't necessarily stop any of the exercise. I would just keep doing what you're doing, keep learning about it, and then give it more time. And you'll see that it's the absolute best thing for PCOS. So.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay.
Well, that's
You're
great.
welcome.
You notice Gabrielle was taking notes and very studious. When I hear stuff, I don't write it down and I forget it. I'm so ADHD, and she's going to just improve so much more quickly because she is organized like so many people that join our show. Let's see. Why don't we stay organized and read the answer to quiz number 3, which asks, normal ketones are between 1 and 3. How can you raise your ketones even higher, 4 to 5? And our audience responded with a combination of fasting and high-intensity exercise. I think that was, I don't see the percentage there. Oh, 82%. Boy, what exacting numbers. And then 10% say extended fasting, and 8% say clean keto, which we just discussed. Any winners, Dr. Berg?
Well, I'm glad you guys are really on the right track, because if you want to raise your ketones more, you add exercise, okay? And then if you want to, and intermittent fasting, okay? So that should bring you into the 4 and the 5 range. But then if you want to take it up a little bit further, then you would do actual prolonged fasting, periodic prolonged fasting. So then you're fasting for 3 days or 4 days or even up to a week. That's how you get your ketones even higher. So it's real simple, just as, then it puts you in charge of your own body. It's like, okay, I want to lose more weight. I want to get my ketones higher. Well, just add this and add that, and then you'll get there. But I'm going to be releasing a new video this next week on the 7th reason why you plateau, because I have all these videos of, there's 6 reasons why you plateau. There's a 7th reason. So instead of just giving you that, you'll just have to stay tuned for that video.
Well, that's terrific. Why don't we throw them a curve with a true-false question, Doc?
All right, true or false? A low-salt diet, and we're talking about below 3 grams of sodium a day. That's 1 teaspoon, okay? A low-salt diet can increase your risk of a heart attack. So chew on that, and then tell me what you think about that.
No kidding. Absolutely. And let's see who we have up next. Why don't we go with Sharon from Raleigh? She's kind of my neighbor, and she's unmuting right now. Sharon, welcome to the Dr. Berg Show.
I know, Sharon.
Hey, Dr. Berg, how are you?
Hi, great.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, I get to see you more often probably than you see me. So, so about a year or so ago, I started getting this really weird pain kind of below my rib cage, and I thought, gosh, must be my posture. My posture must be really terrible. And it happened after I ate. And then probably in November, I just had this really intense pain and finally ended up going to the doctor. Blood work came back saying that I had this gallbladder issue. So they wanted to take it out. I suggested we slow down and see if anything I could eat might change that. But what I found is that like the really good things that I eat, like I love avocados, I'll eat eggs. I can do really well with intermittent fasting. But it's these good fats that will really take me out sometimes. So I'm trying to figure out how to get back on it and what to do.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so we have the gallbladder that stores the fat. Gallstones or gall sludge, which comes before stones, occur because the concentration of cholesterol is too high compared to the amount of bile that you have. You need more bile concentration to keep this sludge thinned out and keep those stones from forming. So instead of cutting back your fat, I would just go up with the bile salts or the gallbladder support, and you start taking more bile salts, purified bile salts. And then the other thing that I would take in addition to regular purified bile salts would be something called TUDCA. And you take the TUDCA, T-U-D-C, let's see, TUDCA, T-U-D-C-A. You take that 2 in the morning on an empty stomach, 2 in the afternoon on an empty stomach, because that will do a wonderful job of thinning your bile through your ducts, those little tubes, and you'll find that that fullness or tightness feeling will go away, and it will start to deal with this super concentrated cholesterol that's building up in your liver. I think those 2 actions would be extremely helpful. What you have to realize too is if you're on keto and you're doing fasting, you're going to be losing fat, and in that fat cell you have triglycerides, and you also have cholesterol. Cholesterol is not used as fuel. Triglycerides are. So a lot of times when you lose weight, you have a lot of this cholesterol has to come through the liver and ends up in the coming through, and if there's not enough bile, then you can start developing sludge, which could turn into a stone. If the stone is very small, I would go this route, just take the bile salts and the TUDCA, and then just give it time to work and see if that doesn't help you.
Where do you find TUDCA? I've never heard of this. I know you have the gallbladder support, and I think you have bile salts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the gallbladder formula.
Okay.
But as far as TUDCA, you can go online, Amazon, and just search for it and get it.
I've never heard of it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a. Watch my video on that. It does a lot of different things. It's fascinating. It's a type of It's like a type of purified bile salt that actually comes from bears, but they make it synthetically. But it has some really cool effects, and especially if you've tried everything and nothing works, that's my fallback supplement, because it just handles so many different strange symptoms that you might have. But yeah.
So keep doing eggs, keep doing avocado, just implement more supplements.
Play around with it, see how you do. And if you still have a problem, then maybe you want to cut back on it. But I have found that sometimes that people are adding these extra keto bombs and this extra fat and MCT oil. Well, maybe just put that to the side and just do other fats for right now until you can get a grip on it and play around with an experiment. You might be able to tolerate it, but I would test it out. But the bile salts will give you probably a lot of relief, and then watch my video on the manual type kind of work that you can work on your gallbladder too, to get things flowing better.
Super. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thanks a lot, Sharon. And Derek from Facebook has a very interesting approach to breaking a fast. He wants to know if there's anything wrong with fasting for 80 hours, then eating 3 meals over the next day, about 4,000 to 5,000 calories. Is that a good idea?
No, that is not a good idea. Because if you haven't eaten in that long period of time, and you cram that much food in there, it's a little bit dangerous, because you could start to shock the system and throw off various things in your body, which I have a video on that. You want to slowly ease into it and have just a little bit of food and wait a little bit, have a little bit more, because your system has to get used to it. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, Derek, stand advised on that. That doesn't sound like a good idea. What does sound like a good idea is answering quiz question number 4, which asks, true or false, a low-salt diet below 3 grams of sodium daily can increase your risk of a heart attack? And our audience suggests that 95% say it's true and 5% say, What do we got, Doc?
Yeah, the answer is it's true, Steve. I'll release the video this week. It's from a real credible study called the PURE study. There's over 135,000 people in 18 different countries, 360 different communities. So it's very, very hardcore data that has created a lot of controversy in the dogma about salt being bad for your heart. In fact, a low salt diet is way more damaging to the heart than a moderate amount of salt. And I'm talking about a moderate being between 3 to 6 grams. That's 3 to 6 teaspoons, Steve. So that apparently is better for you than the low salt. And of course, it's like a bell curve, right? So if you're getting above like 7, 8, 9 grams, then it could be a problem too. But then there's also studies that contradict even that. But the point is that, think about it, sodium is an essential mineral. You can't live without it, especially on the ketogenic diet. Why? Because when you go on and you have ketones flowing through your body, you do eliminate more salt. It does go away. And if you don't add it back, one way you'll know that you're deficient in salt is when you start exercising. Man, you feel faint. You feel like you're going to pass out. You get up and you feel dizzy. Or you get out of the hot tub or go in the hot weather and you feel very, very weak. That means you need sea salt. So don't forget that on keto. It's a real no-brainer. And I'm not talking about a little bit of salt. I'm talking about a lot. And sometimes it's hard to consume that much salt. So you might want to find a no MSG bouillon cube and put it in some hot water and drink it as a soup. Because that's 1,000 milligrams or 1 gram of salt right there. Or make your own broth. But definitely more salt, more sea salt, not table salt, of course. And especially for your heart, it'll help you. I found that sometimes if I don't have enough salt, I'll just feel kind of like tired, like I need a nap or something like that. And I'm like, no, it's not that. Then I'll take the salt and I have energy right there. I'm like, okay, that's what I needed. Because sometimes it's hard to consume that much salt. So I down that Himalayan pink sea salt on my food, even on my salad, especially, to get that salt.
Yeah, and that's the only way they can make bouillon taste good, is just dump it in there. I'm a salt lover. And you remember the coaches in high school, right, giving you salt tabs and, you need potassium.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some serious repercussions for, not getting enough of that, as you say, mineral.
A football player that's practicing in the middle of summer could lose literally 6 grams of sodium in one workout. So you can imagine if they don't put that back. Well, that's why we have things like Gatorade, right? Just to put back in these electrolytes. And I'm being very sarcastic.
That's great. And by the way, last but not least, we have Anthony. And I forgot to ask Anthony, or make note of where Anthony is calling from. Why don't you introduce yourself, Anthony, and let us know where you're at.
Sure. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Perfectly.
Super. Yeah, I'm from Georgia, Atlanta. So my wife follows you, Dr. Berg, and she's on the keto diet. I am not. But I have a high blood pressure. Sometimes it used to go to 180, but I am on medication. Besides, I have a family history of heart and cholesterol as well. So I know when Gabriel asked the question about and even Sharon on the gallbladder, I think I probably have a similar, because I also have a lot of belly fat. But one of the things is when my wife was telling me about the keto was the high fat. And my biggest concern was obviously, my heart and my cholesterol. So I think you mentioned a little while back to do the intercellular test. Maybe I have to look into that and see how I can do that test. Yeah, that's my problem. I just get bloated, and my belly is like a balloon sometimes. Yeah.
Here's a really good test that I think would be good for you. And yes, you can just do a search on intracellular magnesium test, but a really good test would be something called HOMA-IR. Okay, this HOMA-IR measures the amount of insulin resistance you have, and it'll give you. It's kind of like a cross between a fasting glucose test and fasting insulin test. And I'll bet you anything your insulin's going to be way too high. And what's really cool about keto is that it's like a natural diuretic without any side effects. So you're instantly going to lose sodium, you'll have less retention, blood pressure usually comes down real nicely, but I would definitely add more potassium to your diet for your blood pressure, and vitamin D. Those are the key things for your blood pressure. But if you're concerned about fat, right? Because like, oh yeah, keto, it's dangerous because it's high in fat. The question is, what happens to that fat when you're on a low carb diet? It actually is used as fuel. Even if you're on a low fat, high carb diet, which the general population is, they're not able to burn more fat. In fact, they're going to have more saturated fat in their bloodstream than the person on the higher fat, low carb diet. I'm going to send a video out this next week because this is very counterintuitive. You would think more fat is going to end up causing more heart problems, but it's just the opposite, because with the low carbs, your body is now able to finally tap into your stored fat and your dietary fat and use that as fuel. The way you're going about it right now, unfortunately, is you're not able to burn this fat. So it's hard on the liver, it's hard on the heart, and it's in your organs as well. So definitely make sure that I'm going to just go ahead and shut this off. So whoever's calling me right now. So those, I think, study the videos I have on cholesterol. The triglycerides will come down, the HDL will come up, the LDL will come in good range. I think it'll be very therapeutic for you, and you should give it a shot, see if it can't help you. I think it's really beneficial to the heart. There's a really good website called I think it's called verda.com. You have to just do a search on it. On that website, there's a lot of research by medical doctors on diabetes type 2 and also heart stuff by some really credible scientists. So you can read up on that and get all the data you need for your doctor, because even insurance companies right now are actually, if you're on this diet, ketogenic diet, they're actually recommending and even potentially giving you a break on your premiums. So if that's interesting.
Well, Anthony, we're about out of time. We're at the top of the hour. So I tell you what, we wish you well. We're sure you're going to do terrific. But Anthony, it's not over for you either, because we have a terrific list of upcoming videos that Dr. Berg is going to explore right now.
So I'm going to talk about how to test for insulin resistance in the future videos this week, and also are high ketones during fasting dangerous? Depressed with poor, are you depressed and have a poor memory? What to do? The best and worst seeds on keto, and where your body fat can predict disease. Oh, where your body fat is located can predict disease. That's what I'm going to talk about. There's another one. I'm going to talk a lot about the microbiome this next week. Some fascinating information on that. And also the key carbs that have no effect on insulin, why you should do vegetables on keto, even though they're carbs. I'm going to talk about the relationship between inflammation and ketosis, the 7th reason for plateau, and also I'm going to touch on those people that always been overweight their whole life, even when they were babies, and I have some interesting data on why that is and what they should be doing to lose weight, because there are certain people out there that even if you put them on a 500 calories a day, they still have a hard time. And so there's not a lot of them, but it's if you are that person, you need to watch that video.
Well, absolutely. And many other videos, as Gabrielle, one of our newbies, explained, it's just a treasure trove. You've been getting all this sort of misinformation or lack of information, And you go on drberg.com and boom, you can find out pretty much anything you want, and you don't tire of making new ones. So it's all very exciting, and love to thank everybody in our green room for joining us, social media, both on YouTube and Facebook, and people, participating all around the world. And with that, Doc, I'll let you take us out.
I'm starting a new channel coming up soon on keto in children, keto in kids, and especially if you have kids, it's for parents, and how to get kids to do keto and healthy recipes. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be exciting. I'm also going to be starting another one on how to grow super healthy food. So on soil. So it's all about soil. It's going to be fascinating. So stay tuned for that in a few months. But thanks for your wonderful questions and your comments. I will talk to you guys next week, same time, same place.